Chapter 3. As Andorn tromped along, he thought over what the guild needed. There was still a lot to be done. They had removed the debris from the clearing over time and begun digging the ditches that would allow for the foundations to be placed. Several times now, Andorn had opted to spend their hard-earned gold on consulting a builder. It had given them an idea of what to do and made sure they would be laying the stonework for the foundations deep enough. While they also protected the secret of their sentient flame, he had to tread carefully, however. They had a small tent erected over the entrance to the flame's chamber, and the flame itself seemed happy enough to stay there, as long as someone visited often, but it wouldn't be a long-term solution. Yarlin walked with him to go visit their site. The broken pieces of barrel slung into a makeshift satchel on his back, but Andorn didn't feel he could talk to his companion about his worries. More than once, Yarlin had drunk away more than his fair share of the money they'd earned as a group, and it had led to Andorn becoming their official treasurer. He had acted in the capacity partially since they had begun working together, but the rest had opted to make it official. It only increased the burden on his shoulders, however. The desire to run away and leave them all to it had grown since, but his own resolution to help those who needed it and not leave others to fall into trouble he had helped cause kept his feet trudging along the road. They'd found and almost released a sentient flame, and if left where it was, without being either guided and protected or resealed up, it could burn down the whole forest and more. In the wrong hands, like the vengeful demigod who had created it, it could wreak havoc and slaughter hundreds of people. No, Andorn had to stay, and he had to make sure the town they were helping stayed safe. On top of that, he said he'd help the 4 adventurers he found himself with build a guild. And for this part of the world, a guild might actually do some good. When a part of the world went without those to help keep it lawful, it could struggle. People with not so good intentions could sway the otherwise normal people to do unhelpful acts or commit crimes openly, or downright violent things, and that's what had happened to the town they were in. A guild would provide heroes and attract more good people to the area. It had the potential to attract those who meant to cause harm as well, but as long as there was a reasonable force of people there for good, it would always be okay in the end. The downside was not being famous enough yet to waltz into any nearby town or village and immediately be offered the chance to help. Because they'd helped Fentonia, the people were mostly friendly, some more than others, but a few were still wary or skeptical. Of the latter, they were mostly those who hadn't been hurt by the actions of the butler and hadn't needed any other assistance yet. Mira and Saria, going out of their way to help Bernard find his sister, would go some way to improving things even further, but unless they succeeded, it wouldn't do more than make them a little more liked in the town, and Thorgrim already had that covered. If the baby he was helping deliver that day lived, the mothers of the community would suddenly accept him as the new priest, even if he didn't intend to stay that way. Which left himself and Yarlin. While Andorn had money to spend, folks seemed to be pleasant enough, but Andorn's specialty, and where he was most comfortable, was hiding in the background. He didn't want to be charming people, and they seemed ill at ease around him. Yarlin could get along with people well enough if they weren't too polished, and didn't object to his simpler manners. His carpentry skills were very useful, but their guild needed a stone exterior if it was going to face the test of time.
"I swear this road feels longer each time we travel along it," Yarlin said,
dragging Andorn's thoughts back to the present. "That's because we always bring more back with us each time," he replied. Yarlin grunted. It was true enough. They carried more than a little back with them each time. First, everything they had needed to erect a proper tent and put some decent beds within it. Then tools and supplies to clear the area. The cabin was mostly gone, the last of it used as a tool shed. It was the only part Yarlin hadn't declared rotten, although he had warned them not to get too attached. It would come down before the new building was finished.
"I'd suggest we bought a horse and cart, but I have a feeling you're going to tell me we can't afford it,"
Yarlin said, as they reached the fork they needed to take. Already, their frequent passage and the spring rains had made the turn they took far more clear, a path well traveled between the road and their clearing. Making it wide enough to easily take a cart along it was on the list of tasks in Andorn's head. Once the foundation ditches were dug, Andorn would get at least one of them working on it. Probably going to be me or Yarlin, he thought. Only ones with the strength who aren't needed elsewhere. But that didn't make him happy about it.
Why don't we go up to the next town along the pass once the girls have finished with this little mission of theirs? Yarlin asked. See if we can help those people out. Change of scenery might do us some good. If Thorgrim is still busy playing priest, we could travel without him. It's only a few days' travel away if we join the merchant caravan, isn't it?
Less if they'll let us ride with them, Andorn replied. It was something he'd considered. It's a good suggestion. Yarlin grinned, clearly appreciating the rare praise. We either need more jobs or to find an investment, Andorn added, when Yarlin didn't carry his thought further. The clearing appeared in front of them, coming closer as they tromped through the last of the trees.
More jobs will be likely, but what do you mean by an investment? Don't they cost money we don't have?
Sort of. Investments can be all sorts. We could lend a few gold coins to a baker wishing to start up on the promise he pays us 10% of his profit each week. Or it could be as complicated as buying a mine and paying workers to mine it for us.
I like the sound of a mine. Gold and jewels are a wonderful thing to produce.
Andorn chuckled, not surprised Yarlin had thought of the most valuable kind of mine. Not all mines produce shiny results, and you often have to search for new veins. They can lose money as quickly as they can gain it. I'd want a more sound investment to begin with, Andorn said as they stopped in the clearing, his eyes taking in the sight and making sure it was as untouched as he expected it to be. It didn't take him long to check it over, his eyes taking in the lack of fresh tracks. They hadn't been there since the day before yesterday, but neither had anyone else. Before he could tell Yarlin to work on the barrel while he checked on the flame, a woman came out of the clearing on the other side. Her eyes went wide as she saw the tent and half-demolished cabin. Beth was the wife of a nearby farmer, one of the few people they had invited to visit them there, and someone that helped when tracing the source of the town's troubles to the mayor's butler. As she came into the clearing, he noticed her smile, a basket in her hands, and mud on her shoes. "Hello," he said, walking closer to her. "What brings you to our little camp?" "A thank you that's long overdue, and a little curiosity," she replied, holding out the basket. He took it as he caught the aroma of freshly baked bread. Yarlin was going to be pleased. The sailor was always happier with a full belly. Beth looked around while Andorn peeked inside the basket. He saw 2 large loaves of bread, confirming his suspicions, but there was also a jug of fresh milk, some salted meats and fresh eggs, farm produce that was no doubt as new as it could be. As well as that, there were several wrapped packets. "This looks like more than a single meal's worth," he said in an attempt to make conversation of sorts. She smiled, but didn't explain. "Are you building here?" she asked instead.
"Aye, we plan to,"
Yarlin replied, coming forward and also taking a look in the basket.
"We're forming an adventurers' guild."
"Oh, that makes me glad to hear. To know such kind folks with the skills to help us stay safe are sticking around will make us all sleep a little sounder at night."
"Well, we'll not be here every day. We're in dire need of making a little more coin before what we have runs out, but we'll hopefully solve that problem in short order. We were having a discussion about investments that might help solve our financial issues before you arrived."
"Is that so?"
She looked between the two, her eyes lighting up. It was clear a thought had occurred to her. Andorn kept silent, hoping Yarlin would do the same. As Yarlin opened his mouth to speak, Andorn thrust the basket at him. "Why don't you store this somewhere safe and get us both a bit of lunch before we carry on?" Yarlin gave Andorn a strange look, but then did as he had been told, wandering away. Beth gave Andorn another small smile before she walked to the nearest tree stump and sat herself down.
The farm is doing much better, but it took a beating, and those beastly men you dealt with for us took many of our crops and food stores off goodness knows where. Wanted to starve the town, no doubt. We need coin to buy in the grain to really get going again. Not a lot, but even 15 gold coins would let us plant all the fields this year we couldn't have done till next. It would allow us to not only sell more crop, but keep a smaller percentage back for replanting too.
That sounds like a sum you could manage for yourselves, surely? Andorn asked, not wanting to put her off the idea, but equally not willing to take advantage of someone.
Aye, if we sold a family heirloom or 3, or we took a small loan from another farmer perhaps. But my husband is a proud man. You didn't tell anyone what happened, and you saved us from the stigma of harboring those men when none of the other farmers would have been able to prevent it had they been chosen and not us. But my husband feels to blame.
I can see how that would cause a problem. But 15 gold is a lot to us right now. Andorn frowned as he thought about the sum of money they had in his pocket. It was barely more than that.
That I can understand. But 5 busy adventurers such as yourselves, with appetites and needs. If I was to send the mason's boy down here once every fortnight, and the lad with food and drink daily, would you not consider yourselves to have saved? It'll cost me a little, but save you lots, and both of us will be making our homes safe.
Andorn looked at the woman, and the set jaw and lit up eyes, and realized he was sitting next to one of the wisest businesswomen he had met in a long time. Without hesitation, he nodded and reached for his queen purse. As he counted out the gold and handed it to her, he gave her a look. I'd like to keep this quiet then, but you have my gratitude and my respect. Food, drink, and the mason's boy as often as you can spare him for a year, and we'll consider ourselves out of debt with each other.
The feeling is returned. I'm not sure my husband would be with us now if not for your help. And I definitely wouldn't have a farm to even contemplate this conversation. No word of it will come from my mouth, but I'll see it happens.
She got up, the money already tucked safely away, and Andorn had no doubt she'd hand it to her husband and tell him it was a nest egg, or money she'd got by selling something. It also meant there was going to be a big order of grain and livestock from the nearest town soon, and the merchant caravan was bound to appreciate some company in fetching it and bringing it safely to the farm. If Yarlin's thought of heading to the nearby town to see what help they might need was a good idea, this bit of inside information might give them an extra incentive to go. Smiling to himself, Andorn hurried back to join Yarlin. The sailor had laid out a fine spread, the mushrooms now fried, and slices of meat as well. As Andorn sat down beside the open flap of the tent, Yarlin was just cutting slices of the heavenly-smelling bread. Andorn poured 2 cups of milk and exchanged one for a plate. The farmer's wife said she'll have more like this sent down each day now she knows where we are and what we're up to, and also said to expect the mason's son sometime.
Aye? And how much did that cost us?
Yarlin asked. Andorn blinked, trying not to show his surprise. 15 gold, he said eventually.
And how much are we spending on food each day?
4 silver if Thorgrim doesn't eat with us.
So with the drink they'll bring us and the mason's kid, we're winning within a month.
About that.
Good deal then. Guess we'll have to find some more work to make the money back.
Yarlin grinned before tucking into his lunch. Feeling like he and the sailor might finally understand each other a little better, Andorn did the same. Maybe they could make this work after all.